Football on Thanksgiving is an American tradition that brings millions of people together around their television sets as they look to avoid awkward conversations with that certain family member. So let's take a look at how the two developed in becoming as inseparable as stuffing and gravy. But before I carve into it, I want to remind you to hit that like button, just like you'll be hitting those dinner rolls. Then, if you want seconds, be sure to hit follow or subscribe. The history of football on the holiday actually dates back to the early days of the sport, with Yale and Princeton first squaring off on Turkey Day in 1876. The University of Michigan then hopped on board and played on 19 straight Thanksgivings from 1895 through 1904. When the NFL formed in 1920, they quickly gobbled up the tradition with a steady rotation of teams playing on the holiday. However, that began to change in 1934 when the owner of the Detroit Lions, George Richards, used his status as the owner of a radio station, WJR, to negotiate with NBC to broadcast the matchup between his team and the Chicago Bears to a nationwide audience. Since then, the Lions have been a Thanksgiving Day staple every year except for a brief hiatus during World War II, when the only two games played were in 1939 and 1940 and featured the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers as a way to save on travel. Though this was actually controversial because FDR moved up the official date of the holiday a week, and only half the country recognized that it was actually Thanksgiving. There would not be another Thanksgiving Day game until after the war ended. And then since 1945, the Lions have hosted a Thanksgiving Day game every year. In total, Detroit carries a record of 38, 45, and 2. This year, they'll host their longtime rival, the Green Bay Packers, a team they've actually played 22 times prior on the holiday, including 13 straight years in the 50s and early 60s. The Lions hold an advantage in the series of 12-9-1. For many years, the Lions were the only NFL game played on Thanksgiving. Then in 1966, the Dallas Cowboys volunteered to host the entire family in order to help with the brand expansion. That year, Dallas hosted the Cleveland Browns in front of an enthusiastic crowd of 80,000 fans. The tradition has continued since. Well, sort of, because in 1975 and 1977, the St. Louis Cardinals took over Dallas' spot at the table. In total, the Cowboys have gone 34, 22, and 1. This year, they'll put their 3-year win streak on the line when they host the Kansas City Chiefs. The only time the two teams have actually met on Thanksgiving was 1995, when both teams entered the day with 10-2 records. The Cowboys prevailed by a score of 24-12 behind Michael Irvin's feast that included 11 receptions that went for 121 yards and a touchdown to overcome the 276 yards thrown by Norristown, Pennsylvania native Steve Bono. As the NFL has continued to capitalize upon its standing as a brand, since 2006, the league has also featured an evening game to further entertain millions of Americans who are still battling their tryptophan-induced comas. The games also now honor one of the NFL's most popular personalities, John Madden. So grab your plate, settle in, eat a turducken, and enjoy this year's triple helping of NFL football. Have a happy Thanksgiving.